Okay, that's the second part. So that was how that appointment went. When I got done, she said everything looked fine. I went back to the room and she goes, well, we're going to go ahead and, take a check, look down there, make sure everything's normal. And she said that was okay. She did listen to the heartbeat, then she said she didn't know why she did it because I just had a long test, and then they checked it at the ultrasound, but it was still cool to hear. She measured me. She measures me every time. I don't ever ask her if I'm measuring ahead or behind or anything, so I never know, but I assume it's normal. She hasn't said anything. I haven't gained any weight this week, and that was good. Trying to think if anything else came up at the appointment. She told me she's on call this weekend, so this is the best weekend to go into labor. I informed her I was trying very hard. I would lay down at night and I think labor thoughts. I get very relaxed. And she goes, yeah, the baby has to too. And I am getting so sick of hearing the baby will come when he is ready, because obviously I'm well aware of that. So then it wasn't Wednesday night. It must have been Wednesday night. I started getting contractions. Like, I think it started around 11:30, and I got a really bad one. Like, I had my back arched up, and it lasted more than a minute. I know it lasted more than a minute. And I was like, okay, that's weird, but I don't want to go to the hospital unless I'm sure it's the real thing. So I went ahead and just kind of ignored it, and freaking flies, I hate flies. Anyways, so maybe, I don't know how much later, I can't remember when I started keeping track, but I got another contraction, and it wasn't quite as bad, but it was still like enough that I noticed it. So I was like, well, I'll just start timing them, because I try to time them when I get the Braxton Hicks contractions, even if I know they're not real, because I want to make sure that when the time comes, I can time it correctly, and I can, like, even through the pain. And found out the watch I've been going to use, the battery is like almost dead because it stopped moving. Like, I was watching, I looked at where it was when I started, the contraction started, and then I put it down and I was trying to breathe through it, and I look at it again and only 10 seconds have passed, and I was like, that's weird, it feels like longer, but whatever. And I set it back down, and I'm still breathing, and I'm still breathing. I pick it back up, and then it said no time had passed, and I was like, okay. So then I figured out the battery was like kind of dying. If you don't hold it a certain way, it won't tick. So I kind of threw it at the ground. I picked it back up. It was not something I should have thrown on the ground. I was just aggravated. So I started using the TV to keep track of my contractions, and basically I would look at what time it was when it started and what time it was when it stopped. So they were about, I'm trying to think, I think they got to be about 20 minutes apart. They were lasting more than a minute. They really weren't getting any more intense though. And this was going on until, let's see, I think around 2 in the morning I finally gave up, and I was like, they're not getting any worse, they're not getting any closer together, they're just about 20 minutes apart. Every now and then I would have one in between, like a little one, but for the most part, the ones lasting more than a minute, they were about 20 minutes apart. And Jeremy was like, do you want to go to the hospital? And I was like, no, because, I'm not sure if this is the real thing or not. So I went ahead and went to bed, and I was up till like 3 keeping track, and they never got any stronger, and I fell asleep. When I got up the next morning, I had to be at work at 6, so I got up around 5:20, because I had to be at work at 7. So I had to be up at 6:20, and I was exhausted. Like, I'd been up all night, I was tired, I didn't feel good, I got out of bed, and like when I get up in the morning, my legs are really stiff. I guess from the way I lie, because if I sleep on the couch, I don't have that problem. And I'm not sure why, but, I'm walking around and I'm not having any contractions, so I was like, well, I guess, I'm just going to go to work and it's not going to be that big of a deal. And I can't remember what time it was when I got to work that it started. I think it might have been a little bit before, but they came back and they were about as intense as they had been the night before. They weren't too much worse, so I went ahead and told my manager. I was like, I don't know if I'm going to be here all day, because they were going to be about 15 minutes apart, and I figured if they were 10 minutes apart for an hour, I would go ahead and just go pick up Jeremy and go to the hospital. So I waited, I gave it time, I tried to relax, and nothing was happening. I mean, really significant. I was still getting contractions. And then they started to get a little further apart. So I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to go ahead and let that go then. And I'm not going to say they stopped. Around 9 o'clock, no, 8:30ish, they kind of tapered off a little bit. And by the time, oh gosh, what time? 10:30, 11, they started back up, and they were bad. Like, it wasn't like they were regular, they were just really painful, and I was having trouble, and I had to walk around, and if I wasn't walking, standing still made it hurt so much worse. Like, it hurt. I couldn't stand still, so I was walking around tables, and around 1 o'clock they sent me to lunch. I had to go to lunch at 1, about 5 till, they're like, it's almost your lunch, go. And I told them, no, I'm fine, I can wait my 5 minutes, I'll be alright. And they're like, no, you're making me dizzy, go to lunch. So I went and sat down, and I guess sitting down helped, because like when I got back up, they were pretty much gone. But I felt my body was trying really hard to start labor, and I didn't want to disappoint it. So I was like, well, tonight I'll go walking. And I got off work, I went and got Jeremy, and he decided he didn't want to go for a walk with me, so I took him back home after we got halfway to the park. And I get to the park, I walked 1 mile, nothing really happened. I just stopped once because I was tired. I don't usually go walking or anything because it's been hot outside, but it's been nice this week. So I stopped walking, and I was like, I really don't want to go home. I don't want to keep walking around the track though, because my legs are tired. My feet feel all blistered now because I don't have any walking shoes, so I was in flip-flops. So I was like, well, I'm really hungry. I'll just go ahead and get Taco Bell at the mall. So I went to the mall. I got something to eat, and then I just walked around and looked at baby stuff. And like, I was there walking around, well, not continuously. I was stopping and looking at stuff. And then I went to Barnes & Nobles, and I read a book for like a half hour or something, because I still didn't really feel like going home. I wasn't too happy he didn't want to go on a walk with me, and I really didn't want to talk to him. I have been very hormonal this week too. That's another symptom. Anyways, so I walked around there, and by the time I got home, my contractions were like gone. I wasn't getting any twinges. I wasn't getting anything. And like, it's just they were gone. Like, the walking completely got rid of them. And I was like, that's not how this is supposed to work. So I don't know, like today I haven't really had any problems. I've had like a twinge or two, but that's about it. Went and got batteries for the swing. I got the boppy pillow. And Jeremy's like, I really want you to go into labor. And I was like, me too. Believe me. So we looked things up. And it turns out bouncing on an exercise ball will help. Supposed to help. Which I had been doing that night before I got contractions. Like, I was sitting on the exercise ball, and I was bouncing up and down. Jeremy sits at the computer chair, and I'll sit on the exercise ball in front of him, and I'll just sit there and talk to him when I get bored. And so I had been sitting on that, and I had bounced for a little while, and I hadn't even thought about it. And Jeremy had looked up online, because I told him to look for, like, where the pressure points were on your feet that would make you go into labor, because he didn't believe me. And I was angling for a foot rub. And he looked it up. You also have one in your back, which he did not mind pushing on, but he would not push on the ankle spot. and he said that bouncing on the exercise ball is supposed to be like super effective, like more effective than walking. So I have been doing that all afternoon. And I've had a couple plunges, but it's nothing like it was the other night, so I don't know. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work, but at least I'm getting exercise. Yeah, so that's pretty much it for this week. I don't really have anything else to talk about. It's just those were super long stories because I tell them very long. Obviously, I was able to get most of the nursery finished, and I've been doing dishes, trying to get the kitchen clean. He got our vacuum fixed today, and he's moving a little bit. I'm going to see if he'll keep moving, and I'll show you a little bit. Hold on, let's see. Looks like I'm not wearing pants. I'm trying to see if you can see this at all. Like, right here is where he's at. And you can see where it pokes out from the rest, because it's all sideways. I've been trying to keep up with, like, if I think I have to go to the bathroom, I go, oh crap, Ola, I'm over on my time. Anyway, so, yeah, that's it for